Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. Today is the day after Joe Biden started his first overseas trip representing us, the American people, which, well, full disclosure, I'm a conservative. Always keep that in mind when you evaluate whatever I say. For instance, when I say it doesn't seem to have gone very well. His first stop was the United Kingdom, met Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister. What I've been seeing, the reaction at least, well, you're going to see my reaction right now, but the reaction from Her Majesty's subjects was less than favorable. So I'm going to actually kill two birds with one stone today. I'm going to talk about his first overseas trip representing, unfortunately, in my view, the American people. His first stop was yesterday, the day before I'm recording this, so therefore 2 days before you're seeing it. But it's also a good time. I might as well take the opportunity to give everybody a Joe Biden dementia update because I haven't done one lately and it was on display in England. So what better time to do one? So that's what we're going to do. So we'll start out with the British reaction, and here it is. Here's the headline. Brits call Biden, quote, so senile he probably won't remember what we tell him anyway, unquote. Joe Biden's first trip abroad is turning into an utter disaster as the senile sock puppet offends our closest ally and endangers the peace process in Northern Ireland with his incompetent dementia, as the Daily Mail reports. The Daily Mail is a British paper. They do a lot of coverage. Well, they cover the United States so much, you might as well call them an American paper, but they are in England, which is one reason why, if you want to know a lot of what's going on in this country, you have to go to the British papers, and the Daily Mail is an especially good one because they extensively cover the United States. That may be their sole focus. I just read the individual articles. I've never spent a lot of time on the website. They do have a lot of pictures in their articles, which is nice, and a lot of scantily clad celebrities. So that's another reason. Anyways, I'm digressing. There's a link to the Daily Mail article in the article I'm quoting from, which I in turn link to in the description, so you can read the whole article. Let me just give you an excerpt. Senior Brexiteers, these are people who supported Brexit, in case you're wondering. Senior Brexiteers blasted Joe Biden today for failing to side with Britain in its, quote, sausage war, unquote, trade row with the EU over Northern Ireland, with one astonishingly branding the U.S. president, quote, senile, unquote. Not astonishing to me at all, but I suppose if this is a high official for him to do that, well, it's not very good diplomacy, put it that way, but I could understand why somebody might want to say that, even a high official. Why is he talking about Northern Ireland anyway? That is the first question. It's really none of our business, Brexit. It's because Joe Biden and his former boss, who may still be his boss, that's a question I'm going to get to later, who is actually running the country, who is the real president. It looks like Obama's got a bunch of input, and he publicly spoke against Brexit, which is none of our business. That was none of our business either, but they have it just strikes a nerve, I guess. They're still not over it. So Joe Biden's got to stick his, dementia hobbled mind into Northern Ireland and Britain. They reacted furiously after the new American leader issued a stern rebuke to Boris Johnson for, quote, inflaming tensions in Northern Ireland and threatening the peace process. So he's over there to, it should really be a friendship tour. It's his first tour, and he starts out with we have our special relationship, quote unquote, special relationship with Great Britain. And what does Joe Biden do? He starts right out admonishing the Prime Minister of Britain, which reminds me of something Robert Gates said, a former Secretary of Defense, that Joe Biden, no matter what the subject, no matter what the issue, Joe Biden has always been wrong about everything. And now he is our president with the ability to put his wrong ideas into practice. By the way, if you don't already know, you probably do know, the company behind the Keystone Pipeline, they withdrew. They just got tired of it. Joe Biden unilaterally canceled their permit. There was, well, I had read that there was going to be a court case from a number of governors they were going to the Supreme Court to say that Joe Biden didn't have the right to do what he did, but it's too late now. He took away the permit. It's been 5 months. Nothing's been happening. Tens of thousands of people were fired, and whatever jobs would have been created, they're not going to be created now. The oil that would have gone through this pipeline that would not have created any carbon, no carbon footprints that our liberal friends seem to be so concerned about. So now we're going to get lots of carbon out of the exhaust of all the tanker trucks that are going to have to deliver this oil, and the rail cars are going to have to deliver the oil, because we're not going to have that pipeline. So thank you very much, Joe Biden. You are consistently wrong on everything. But I digress, as I usually do. And when I say digress, that usually means rant. When I digress, that's usually the reason. But back to the article. Let's try to get through it, this excerpt. Where are we? The U.S. president used his diplomats to express, quote, great concern, unquote, over the conflict centered on post-Brexit trade rules agreed last year by both sides, which the U.K. is now seeking to change. The United States, quote, strongly urged, unquote, Britain to, quote, stay cool, unquote, and reach an agreement, even if that meant making, quote, unpopular compromises, unquote. The rebuke came as crunch talks between Britain and Brussels over sausage imports failed to make a breakthrough. So here we are, the President of the United States, talking about sausages and some dispute about sausages, probably tariffs or something, or having to do with Northern Ireland and the rest of Ireland. Northern Ireland, part of the UK, Ireland, the rest of Ireland still part of the EU. That's always creating these problems. So, Democratic Unionist Party, that's an Irish political party, also known by its initials DUP. DUP leader Edwin Boots lashed out at Mr. Biden today, accusing him of trying to drive, quote, a coach and horses through the Good Friday Agreement, unquote, that guarantees sectarian peace in Northern Ireland, unquote. And I have to jump in again in case you don't know what the Good Friday Agreement is. That's the one that ended the fighting between the Irish Catholics and the Irish Protestants in Northern Ireland. You remember the Irish Republican Army and all the fighting, so I'm not going to rehearse that, but that was ended with the Good Friday Agreement. Anyways, here we go. Quote, this is effectively a constitutional change. Would President Biden, for example, allow Alaska, which is separate and distinct from the rest of the land block of the USA, but still part of the USA, to be taking laws from Canada and have its laws applied from Canada, unquote? The answer, no. Well, maybe Joe Biden would, but I wouldn't. I hope you wouldn't. And an anonymous Tory MP, Tory is a British party, told Politico, that's it's an American website, political website, quote, America should remember who their allies are. Unfortunately, he's, meaning Biden, he's so senile that he probably won't remember what we tell him anyway. Unless an aide is listening, I'm not sure he's going to remember for very long, unquote. And then Nigel Farage. You may remember Nigel Farage. He was one of the leaders of the Brexit movement in the UK. You could actually call him a founder of the Brexit movement. You would not be too far off. He may be perfectly accurate. but he has been on TV here quite often, so you may know the name. Anyways, he's a well-known figure in Britain. Nigel Farage wrote on Twitter over the EU Northern Ireland row, quote, "We now have an anti-British U.S. president in the White House. I hope all those who condemned Trump see their stupidity," unquote. And by the way, Farage is a very close friend of Donald Trump. Well, I won't, I've been digressing so much. He's a very close friend of Donald Trump. So he's hoping not because of his friendship with Trump, but because of what we're seeing or what they're seeing on this trip that does not seem to be going so well, at least based on the first day. He's hoping based on that everybody who were just attacking Donald Trump see their stupidity. I hope, well, I'm confident a lot of people in Europe are, but, well, maybe not. On the far left, no. In this country, I can't believe it, but it's true. Rasmussen poll of likely voters. Today, Biden was at 52% approval. The other day he was 48%, but maybe one day he was at 46 several months ago, but he never goes below 48, and he's usually at 50% and above in this country. So we'll see. I do read articles about Americans having buyer's remorse, so we'll see what happens. I guess we'll really find out in 2022 election. Now let's get to the actual trip. Here's a headline. And I'm going to show you some videos which you may already have seen, but they're worth summarizing, putting them all together in one vlog, which is what I'm going to do. Quote, "I keep forgetting I'm president," unquote. Babysitter Jill Biden bosses hubby in front of troops. Quote, "Pay attention, Joe," unquote. Despite grueling sycophancy from the media, President Joe Biden's first speech to U.S. troops stationed abroad drew criticism that it was a giant flop marred by cringe-worthy behavior and gaffes. So well, you're seeing what, oh, you know, I have to digress. I hate to do all these digressions, but Nigel Farage saying that we have an anti-British president in the White House. We also have an anti-Israel president in the White House, an anti-Saudi Arabia, an anti-all of our allies, it seems, president in the White House. He's kowtowing to our enemies. He seems to care more about Russia than he cares about Canada, which is a close ally, and our neighbor, by the way. But he canceled the Keystone Pipeline, but he's okay with the Nord Stream pipeline going from Russia into Germany, making Germany dependent on Russian oil. Again, Robert Gates, Joe Biden, wrong on everything. So another example. Anyways, despite grueling sycophancy from the media, President Joe Biden's first speech to U.S. troops stationed abroad drew criticism that it was a giant flop marred by cringeworthy behavior and gaffes. The speech Wednesday at the Royal Air Force Mildenhall in Britain began with First Lady Jill Biden taking charge by delivering the first set of remarks, all while telling the airmen to sit down and bossing her husband around. "You know," she said, quote, "you know you can sit down. I don't want you to stand," unquote, she said to the crowd of airmen. As they proceeded to sit down, the president turned around to watch, and someone shouted, quote, "I love you, Joe," unquote. Seeing her husband watching the crowd then prompted the First Lady to exclaim, quote, "Pay attention, Joe," unquote. The comment drew laughter from the crowd. See for yourself. Here is the video.
Joe and I are always excited to visit with our troops and their families. You know, you can sit down. I don't want you to stand through. Joe, pay attention.
Welcome back. I want to continue with this article a little bit more. Over on Twitter, the joking behavior instead provoked criticism from those who felt that even if she was joking, her, quote, order, unquote, to the president made him, and thus the country, that would be our country, the United States of America, look weak to its foreign adversaries as he's on the way to our president to meet with Putin, with Vladimir Putin, who is not going to suck up to him, I'm guessing, the way our media does. And, well, critics also argued that while the, quote, order, unquote, might be cute in normal circumstances, the president's known dementia-like aloofness raised questions over whether the First Lady had even been joking. Well, you just saw the video, and you can replay it. You can watch the video again. It makes a very good point, but another point is, why is she speaking at all, number one, on an important occasion such as this? I mean, there was at least one occasion I recall, it could have been more than one, where Trump's wife spoke before he did, but it was such a minor occasion that I honestly can't even remember the occasion. But something like this, it leads to something I'm going to show you in a moment, a photo, which you may also have seen, but it makes one wonder who's the real president here. So, well, let me give you a couple of tweets here. Here are a couple of reactions to what happened on that day. In a normal situation with a cognitively sharp man, this would be a cute banter between husband and wife. But unfortunately, when the husband is Joe Biden, whose cognitive ability is in question and in obvious decline, it's just terribly disturbing. Not cute, but telling. Another tweet, that's so sad. I can't watch them. My grandmother and mother-in-law had dementia/Alzheimer's. I was sad to see the Democrats pushing the Biden vote because I could see it. Now I'm sad for Biden and his wife. It's a difficult disease because they are fine one minute and then not the next. This person means people who have dementia, because I don't think Jill has dementia, thank God. That's why I think that, well, I'll get to that in a moment. A couple more things here, very, very short. By itself, this criticism might seem silly. A joke is a joke after all. But what Biden himself said only moments later seemed to lend credence to these concerns. After stepping up to the podium to deliver his own speech, he briefly forgot to tell the airmen to be, quote, at ease, unquote. When he remembered a couple of minutes later, he offered a bizarre explanation for why he'd forgotten. Quote, I keep forgetting I'm president, unquote, he pithily said. So, join the club, Europe. You can see what America has to deal with, and you can also, well, you can watch our media and see how our media will work overtime to cover this up. And they are going to have to work overtime when we see things such as this. But let's go to, well, you just saw the video, pay attention. But there was something else that happened in this speech. He says, well, you're going to see it yourself. Here is Sky News. They are kind of a counterpart to Fox, both owned by Rupert Murdoch. It's a conservative station, so just as I say about myself, you can keep that in mind when you listen to what this commenter says, but listen to what he says.
This brings me to the US President Joe Biden, who's arrived in the UK for the G7 meetings, where he'll catch up with our own Prime Minister as well as the other leaders. Now, while he's in the UK, Biden, of course, the Commander-in-Chief of the American Armed Forces, he addressed some US troops. And as you would expect, the Commander-in-Chief spoke to them about global security threats and the main challenge for the soldiers that they would be having. And I think when he was speaking about this, his little speech to them about national security threats, I think perhaps the main challenge for the soldiers might have been keeping a straight face.
You know, when I went over in the tank in the Pentagon, when I first was elected vice president with President Obama, The military sat us down to let us know what the greatest threats facing America were, the greatest physical threats. This is not a joke. You know what the Joint Chiefs told us the greatest threat facing America was? Global warming. Because there'll be significant population movements, fights over land, millions of people leaving places because they're literally sinking below the sea in Indonesia because of the fights over what is arable land anymore.
This is not a joke. Biden says that's not a joke. Be afraid, world. Be very afraid. China is throwing its weight around, fortifying islands, building up its armed forces and bullying its neighbours. And Russia has invaded and annexed its neighbours, while Iran is fueling terrorist uprisings against Israel and destabilising the Middle East. And Joe Biden tells his troops their biggest challenge is global warming. Next up, he'll appoint Greta Thunberg as his national security advisor. And that was a joke, I think.
Welcome back, and now we get to the photo that I promised earlier and to delve into the question that I asked earlier. Who is the real president? Who is actually running the country? So take a look at this photo. As you can see, that is Jill Biden sitting behind a desk. What is that desk? Where is it? It is the president's desk. It is the desk of the president of the United States on Air Force One. Here is a photo of Donald Trump sitting behind that same desk when he was the president. But look at the caption above the photo, and this is from Jill Biden, prepping for the G7, the meeting of the G7 countries that Biden is there to attend. But who is Jill Biden? Who is Jill Biden? She is Joe Biden's wife. That's all. She's the first lady, not elected to anything. We did not elect her to do anything. And she's prepping for the G7. And what is Joe Biden doing? Where is Joe Biden? Why is he not prepping? Why is there not a photo of him prepping? Well, one writer guessed that he's taking a nap. Maybe he's taking a nap because he does seem to need them fairly frequently. Does not seem to be able to function for long periods of time. But there it is. That's his wife acting like the President of the United States. And a little bit of a historical note, because if you read stories about this, you'll see references to Edith Wilson, that Jill Biden is our present day Edith Wilson. Edith Wilson was the wife of President Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson, in his second term, he had a stroke. Was barely functioning, and you didn't see him doing anything anymore. And the rumor was, it's not confirmed, so it was a rumor, but the rumor was that Edith Wilson was really running the country because her husband couldn't. He had had a stroke, and that she was the real president, and they were burying it. So that's what that reference means. When they say Edith Wilson, they mean that Jill Biden is performing the same function that, or actually performing the function that Edith Wilson was rumored to have been performing. But there is more than that. There is a man named, well, it's his chief of staff in the White House, but the question goes beyond that photo, and it goes beyond Jill Biden, because there are other possible people involved, including Ron Klain. Ron Klain is the White House chief of staff, very partisan Democrat. There are rumors that he is actually setting policy that, well, they just tell Joe Biden what they want him to do, and he goes along with it, or he's afraid to stand up to them or whatever, or he's afraid of not getting reelected, even though he should not. Well, he's too demented, in my personal opinion, to have been elected this time. That was reason alone not to vote for him. But he is hinting, he has been hinting at running again at the age of 81. Who knows what shape he'll be in then. But he is afraid of, I guess, not having the support of the far left of his party, because otherwise, why does it matter? And especially, it's not going to matter after 2022 if, as I hope, the Republicans take over the House and the Senate. The Biden presidency will, for all practical purposes, be over unless he does a Bill Clinton and moves, well, throws the liberal part of his party, which is most of the party, if not almost the entire party, under the bus, as he seems to be throwing his vice president, who is a liberal, so maybe he'll do it. But there is the rumor that Ron Klain is actually setting policy. There's this rumor about Ron Klain, but there's also a rumor about the president's staff, which apparently is a very left-wing staff, which would not surprise me at all because we see the Senate hearings, we see the visible people that he is appointing to various positions. So you get my drift, and the scuttlebutt is that the negotiations, which seem to have stopped over the infrastructure package, Joe Biden was agreeing to some things, and then he would be overridden by his staff. Repeat that, not Joe Biden, the President of the United States, overriding his staff, but the staff effectively, at least, overriding Joe Biden. According to the Republican negotiator, the Senator Capito, according to, I don't know if I have a quote of her actually saying it in public, but it's been reported that they would have a cordial negotiation with Joe Biden, and then when they went to the staff to discuss the details, the staff would reject what Joe Biden had agreed to. They found the staff much harder to deal with than Joe Biden. So that's it for today. I'm going to end here, except to show you a short video, funny video, clever video, very, we'll say, pithy video. Since we're talking about an incompetent administration, I've been talking about the president. Might as well get the vice president equally incompetent, if not more incompetent. At least Joe Biden has some governing experience, in the Senate, at the federal level. She is clearly over her head, and you've probably seen the video, or well, you know very well, I'm sure, that she is refusing to visit the border. So a congresswoman made, well, just watch the video.
I'm Lauren Boebert, and I traveled down to McAllen, Texas to the Rio Grande Valley sector to see what's up at our southern border. So here's what's up at the border. Illegal aliens crossing the border, that's up. Sex offenders crossing the border, that's up. Drug trafficking, gun smuggling, human smuggling, that's up. Unaccompanied children being sent on this journey alone, and even worse, given over to the cartel, that is way, way up. You know what's not up at the southern border? Respect for law and order, funding for our border patrol. And where's the media to cover this crisis? More than 70 days ago, Biden named cackling Kamala as border czar, but she hasn't done a single thing to protect the American people. She hasn't even been down here to see the border or the tens of thousands of children wrapped in aluminum foil. You can't just hear about what's happening. You have to come down here to see for yourself, to really understand the devastating reality at our southern border. So I brought Kamala down to see exactly what this regime is responsible for with their man-made crisis. Now, Kamala, I want you to stand here and look at what you've done.
Welcome back, and that really is it for today. Thanks for sticking around and watching. I always appreciate the time that you spend with me. You could give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Share it with anybody you think would also like the video. Got any questions or comments? You can put them in the description below the video, as well as suggestions for future topics. And by the way, I did get a suggestion from a commenter, Turbo Jones. If you're watching, Turbo, I'm considering it. I think I will do this as a topic, and fairly soon. Other than that, did I say subscribe? You could subscribe. I love getting new subscribers. You could visit my other channels, my hot dog recipe channel, my music channel. But most of all, I would love to see all of you again. I hope you'll come back and spend some more time with me. I just look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.